that can activate that gene, and all of a sudden you've got issues with it. And what is a classic sign of gluten sensitivity? Well, gut disorders is one of them. And gut seems to relate to everything. So for a lot of other people, it's something neurological. It's considered a neurotoxin. Bad moods, like you explained. Bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, ADD, those types of things. A really interesting, very small study was published not that long ago, 2-3 years ago, on unexplained paralysis. We're talking no limb function from here on down. I've gone through every test. There was 25 cases of these. No, not able to walk, wheelchair bound. Some of them had lost bladder as well as colon function. Nobody could figure out what was going on. These were all adults. On a whim, one of the researchers, bless her, took them all off of gluten for 3 months. 24 of the 25 regained full function. Phenomenal. It was published in one of our medical journals. 24 of the 25. A later examination, we found out the 25th cheated. Yeah. And it's extremely small study, I know, but it's unbelievable data. It was acting as a neurotoxin. Now remember, this is a very special select group. Everything else has been ruled out. You can't go to somebody who's in a wheelchair and say, hey, you should be off of gluten. No, you can't do that. But everything else has been excluded. But look at the power of this food and how it was just destroying neurons. Yeah? And I'm seeing that. We're seeing some really wounded people in here. They're walking wounded. They're walking struggling with emotional disorders that is totally wrecking their lives and those around them. And you can take them off of gluten and totally clear it up. Wow. You become a pretty fast convert when you see that. For some people, gluten is poison. For a lot of people, dairy is a poison. And that's why Dr. Stacey was saying the first 2 years of life, hey, let's back off. Let's give that gut a chance to really mature so they can truly handle it so that we don't battle that later on sometime later on in life. Yeah. Okay. This one, again, goes into autoimmune diseases and all the different things that could affect it. We now know it's not one thing causing an immune disease. We know genetics plays a role in a lot of them. But remember, genetics it's a story of life. That's how Dr. Stacey started us. And in the gene pool, there is no lifeguard. That's why we have to watch over our genes and how they express themselves. And God has given us the opportunity to make our genes express one way or another way. And so genetics, I can guarantee you that almost all of us have genes in us that will lead to autoimmune disease. It's just so prevalent. It's out there. And we've got to stand guard over it. So our dietary environment is huge here. It is absolutely huge. The new foreign to man chemicals that we ingest wreak havoc with our genes. They wreak havoc with it and how they express themselves. NutraSweet, one of them. Red, yellow number 5. Some of the preservatives, trans fats, they don't just alter our genetics, they damage it permanently. Trans fats, why else do we think there's such an uproar about it? It permanently damages your genes, not just your expression. So that is why we should all be sticklers for reading labels. If you see things on the label that you don't understand, chemical words, it's junk. Do not buy it. Do not consume it. It is junk. Yeah? If the label on it has more than 6 or 7 ingredients, it's probably junk. You can follow me around in the store and just look at it, and if it has a list of ingredients this long, don't even bother. Really, don't even bother. Anytime anything's in a package, you have to be suspicious. You have to be very suspicious. And even something that looks as innocuous as oatmeal, still check it out. How close to nature is this stuff? Is this the instant stuff? Well, guess what? They got steamrolled, they got chlorinated, they don't have to put that on the ingredients. It's glycemic index, meaning it gets converted to sugar real quickly. It's really high. Convenient, yes. Good for you? No. Steel cut oats. Just plain oats cut in half. That's all it is. Simple. Soak it overnight if you don't have time to make it in the morning, because I don't. And you soak it overnight, you pop it on a pan, microwave, however you want to do it, and you've got instant oatmeal done the healthy way. Yeah, it's just a small example, but it's an important one. That's how we have to do it. How close to nature is it? So our environment, it's absolutely huge. Some of our houses are just breathing chemicals. If you have all these cabinets made out of this pressed wood, and it's fairly new, and a new carpet, you're walking into a cesspool of chemicals, formaldehydes. Look at the labels of these cabinets, and it will tell you how much off-gassing is occurring. They are now required by law to give that. Yeah? This wooden floor, I checked the label very carefully because it had a label for off-gassing. It's extremely little. It's extremely small. Barely detectable. This is important because it has an oil on it instead of varnish. Yeah? So occupational. Obviously, your occupation has a lot to do with autoimmune diseases. We are treating currently a patient who's spent his whole life in tool and die, and he comes in looking very old, looking just he's been propping himself up by being a great pharmacist, and so he's given himself DHEA to try to get his adrenals stimulated. He's doing all kinds of crazy things to keep from getting sick, just huge doses of vitamin C, and he's just trying to get by. So first thing I hear tool diet, first thing we do is check his urine for heavy metals, loaded with heavy metals. His profession, I kind of knew what he was going to be in there. Cadmium and lead, that's what we found. Yeah. So now we put him on a specific heavy metal theory, and after 6 weeks, I dare say half his wrinkles in his face are gone. You know how a smoker come in, you have that really, that smoker's look, I guess, which used to be considered rugged, but really isn't. It's oxidative stress. Gone in just 6 weeks. It's absolutely amazing what you can do if you give the patient a chance. Removing boulders and let God's creation do its thing. The trauma, obviously there's some patients that have a tremendous, I've got a fellow that just comes to me, he's in his early 20s, and he fell out of a 5th-story window and survived. And his hip has moved up tremendously, it's in through there. And it's affecting him neurologically a lot, intestinally. You think that'll affect his autoimmunity at some point? Yes. Hopefully we'll get into it before it does that. We're finding out that certain classes of drugs can go into Parkinson's and MS-like symptoms, even the recreational drugs especially. In the 90s there was a real problem out in California where a certain type of subclass of ecstasy that they were using was giving patients Parkinson's, and it is permanent damage, and that's not uncommon at all. Anything to add to that?
70% of our genes are not expressed. Our body has a great ability of hiding what it considers inflammatory, junk, viral, something that shouldn't be expressed. When we expose ourselves to all of these different problems that Dr. Denver just talked about, whether it's our diet, whether it's our lifestyle, whether it's where we work, where we're living, it allows those genes to get expressed. So that's why he said we all have the opportunity to get an autoimmune disorder. It's just our body is doing a wonderful job of keeping it under cover.
Yep. It's ironic that a lot of these genes that keep it undercover used to be called junk DNA. Actually, they still get called that because supposedly it was some evolutionary byproduct, so didn't know what it did. Junk DNA. But we knew that a decade ago when we came across this new finding called junk DNA, that at some point we knew that wouldn't be called junk, and lo and behold, I'm sure they're scrambling right now to try and find another name for it. Yeah. Okay. Therapeutic potential of neurohormetic phytochemicals. Don't you love the words they use? Yeah, it's awesome. It keeps all of us confused. And really, neurohormetic phytochemicals have been found to suppress the disease process related to neurodegenerative diseases. This is a big topic. Neurodegenerative diseases, we all think of Alzheimer's, but it's a huge topic. And we found, this is a new finding, a resveratrol, and this is derived from wine, grapes, right? Has a very powerful protective effect.